held the 17th meeting of the Top Shelf Society, where today we are so lucky to be joined with Zoraida Cordova, the author of this month's book, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. Zoraida, you want to say hello?
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so cool.
Oh, we're so excited and so honored to have you. So just to give a little bit of information to our viewers, Zoraida is the author of more than just this book. She's also the author of the Brooklyn Brewhouse series and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, A Crash of Fate. And then, of course, this book. She also writes romance novels. And she was born in Ecuador, and she calls New York City her home. So... All right. And so, like usual, we'll just do brief introductions for anyone joining us, and then we will hop into a quick 30-minute Q&A session with Zoraida, and then she's got to head out, and then we'll do our live show like normal. So I'm Kristin. My channel is Perks of a Bookflower, and I just read, wherever the spirit takes me, that whatever, it doesn't matter what genre, just whatever I'm feeling. So that's me.
I'm Laura. I have a channel called Laura Reads Pages. I also read a little bit of everything, but I'm kind of in a very YA kind of mood in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, that's me.
Nice.
And I'm Sara, and I like to read with my cat, who is currently sort of biting and nibbling on my hand in my lap right now. And we like to read all the things. We love graphic novels as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. So, really quickly, I do have to mention our next book club pick is going to be The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So the live show date for that we'll post on our Instagram, but definitely join us for that. And let's begin. So Sara, Laura, do you guys want to start off with some questions for our author?
I will just say that I cut this down to the wire. Like, I finished the book an hour ago. So last book club, I finished 15 minutes before the session. I just finished it. So I gave myself a whole hour to absorb the story. So, but it's good. It's fresh in my mind, and like I'm really excited about it coming into the meeting. So I like doing it that way. I guess I was wondering. It seems to me that I was wondering if any of the plot is based off of mythology or some of the, for example, the swamp creature. And I was wondering, are those of your inventions, or did you borrow them from kind of other traditions?
Yeah. So it's not based on any mythology. I really wanted to, I love, as a fantasy writer, I love creating myths and religions and different stories and things like that. And so it's a little different going into something that is magical realism or contemporary fantasy. There is a river monster in this book for a couple of chapters, and that creature is inspired by a story that my grandmother used to tell me about her grandfather, who was a fisherman in Ecuador, in our city in Guayaquil, the same place where Orquídea is from. And she used to say that he was the only one who had like the best fishing bounty or whatever. And it was because he used to talk to the river, and he would always give back half of his catch. And so I turned that into a literal, instead of like the spirit of the river, I turned it into a literal creature that has been there before the Spanish conquistadors and before the Inca conquerors, and so, like, back when it was just green and nature. So that's an example of, like, I took a family story, but it's not based on anything other than that. The only thing that is real is, like, a historical fact, are the two indigenous founders of the city, Guayas and Kill. Like I mentioned, there's a statue in the city.
Mm-hmm.
when they're visiting, but it's sort of like a tourist thing. Like, you know, when you go to any city and there's like a statue of like a historical figure. But that's, you know, they also come with their own legends. But it's not a part of the book.
Yeah.
I really liked that. The river monster was one of my favorite kind of, anyway, I'll ask.
No spoilers, right?
Well, we'll get to spoilers.
Yeah. I
yeah.
was gonna say one thing I love is all the flowers. Like, I'm a big flower person, and so like the idea of having like a flower like grow out of my finger or like on my clavicle or something like sounds amazing. So was that kind of born of like a love of flowers like yourself, or
It is and it
Okay.
isn't. So I think that the book is very much about a return to nature in a way. When, like, let's say, because sometimes people feel like, I don't belong anywhere. Where do I belong? I belong in nature. I belong in this solitude, this place that is only for me. And so I needed a physical manifestation of Orquídea's power and inheritance for her children, for her grandchildren. And so Marimars is on her clavicle, and you know, she also always has like a hard time speaking up or finding her voice or what she wants to say. And so that's why hers is there. You know, Ray is an artist, so that's why his is on his wrist. And Rhiannon is just sort of this like odd fairy child that everyone stares at. And so because she's this oddity, hers is on her forehead. So I mean, I feel like I would definitely want like a flower appendage if I could have like a magical flower one. And I would choose my clavicle.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish you could get that, like, instead of a tattoo, get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you born and raised in Ecuador?
Yeah. I was born in Ecuador. We moved to New York when I was 6 or 7, but I used to go back every summer for a period of time because I still have a lot of family there. So I would go, you know, it's summer break. So you go somewhere, and I would go back there. Yeah.
Because I love this. I love the family component and sort of just kind of like searching for where you belong. I'm a child of immigrants from Portugal. And so like we speak Portuguese and English and English and those sorts of things. And we have like a big family. And so I love the theme of family and a sense of belonging, and a family with secrets as well. I just absolutely love that sort of component in finding out, you know, who you are, like Ray with his like artistic pursuits and that sort of aspect of it as well. Yeah, I connected with that part quite a lot.
There was
Thank you
definitely
so much.
a lot to like relate to as well, with like kind of the messiness of family, right? I mean, we all have like an Enrique, or sometimes we are the Enrique. And I love that. I don't know if this is too personal, but were any of the characters like inspired by particular family members?
You know, yes and no. I think that I feel like that's my answer for everything, because I the well of inspiration. I feel like I get inspired from everything around me in the world, and so some of the characters, you know, like Orquídea's dad and how he sort of rejects her. That's based on my grandfather, my mom's dad, right? Like he did something similar to my mother, um and the character Orquídea's husband, her first husband, Bolivar, he's sort of an amalgamation of several men in my family whom I do not like. And so I think that like the characters that I feel like are redeemable, I pull from that. The characters who are not redeemable, I also pull from that, our past experiences. Definitely, if you have been mean to me in the past, you're probably a villain in my book, even if it's just like you share the eye color or hair color or like whatever. But it's just the nature of being a writer. It's like, your sources, it's everything there that's in front of you. And so yeah, so be nice to the writers in your life is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Or you end up as a villain.
I love that.
I guess I was wondering, I also loved Orquídea going into the garden and eating earth from the place that she'd moved to and learning the language through that, and also Rhiannon later when they're in Ecuador. And I was wondering, how important do you think language is in feeling connected to your ancestors? And what do you think it does when you lose your ancestral or the language of your parents, even, or at least lose it, or don't live in it anymore? Yeah.
Well, I am a Spanish speaker, and I grew up in a family that, we speak Spanish at home. And so, but I also had a lot of friends who lost their languages, and the idea of language as a connecting factor to your roots or to like a different part of yourself seems to crop up in a lot of my books. And I wonder if more recently it is because, in the United States there's so much xenophobia around people who speak anything other than English, even though English is not like, even though this country doesn't have a national language. And if we're going by first languages, like, shouldn't it be like Dutch if you're in New York, or things like that? And so I do not feel precious about language. I don't get mad when other Latinos don't know how to speak Spanish, because it's all a journey, and you don't actually know why somebody doesn't speak a language, right? And sometimes it's not because they don't like it. Sometimes it's because they were bullied in school. Like one of my friends, she doesn't speak Tagalog anymore because she was made fun of and called like racial slurs for being Filipina in her school when she was 9. And this is just like the cruelty that we have as people. But I also think that for me, as somebody from Latin America, Spanish is a colonizer language, so we would have spoken other languages before. So what all of my ancestors would I have spoken one of the indigenous languages of Ecuador? What about the people who were trafficked from Africa to the New World? They had their own languages, and they were literally forced to not speak it. And so language is such a complicated thing. And I think that if you want to embrace it, you should embrace it. But I don't think that you can force any opinion on anyone else, or a connection on anyone else. It's such a complicated thing, and it's a personal journey. But it's always going to be in my books because I think that language both separates us and connects us in different ways. And so, yeah, I struggle to communicate in Spanish sometimes because when I go to a Spanish speaking country, it's the dialect is different. Like if you're in Portugal versus being in Brazil, it's gonna sound different.
Totally.
When I was in Spain this summer, I would be like, can you say that 10 times slower, please?
Yes.
Even though like I can understand like Caribbean Spanish, which is so fast, but like I was in Spain and I was just like, I don't know what anyone is saying to me. So I went off on a tangent, but yeah, language is complicated. You have your own journey. I think it's something that I explore in my work.
Yeah. I have another question. It's kind of simple, but I'm so curious about it. Do you have a favorite character in the book?
So people keep asking me this. I've actually done 3 book clubs this week.
Oh, okay.
This is my third one. This is my last one for the month. And I've been asked this question every single time. Usually for other books, I change my mind all the time. But for this book, it's been very consistent. And it's been Ray. Like, Ray has been my favorite character.
That's my favorite character.
I love him
Yeah.
so much. I love him so much. I have a question to ask on top of that. So is there a component of the book that you want others to connect with, like the most important part that maybe has been like not mentioned to you, or something that you really want to express about the book that maybe you haven't yet?
I think that, there's this idea in the book about being different, right?
Yeah.
And Orquídea is different in her family because she was, born out of wedlock in a time when that was important, and in a culture where that was not the ideal situation for a single woman, right? And then she goes to a circus where she is literally put on display, and the things that marked her as different in her family are now beautiful. And so I think that there is the idea of the other, but set in sort of this magical landscape. Because I think that when it comes to stories about people from Latin America, we tend to use the same sort of like
Mm-hmm.
border stories or things like that. And so, like, for me, I really wanted to write about that feeling without writing a story about immigration, right? Like, this is a story about magic and curses and secrets. And so I think I'm still telling the same story, but in a different lens.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but I feel like the character that I won't be able to like forget from the story is the living star. Like, just the tragedy of him, and at the end, whenever like his mouth is like, I guess, stitched up. I don't know, just such a powerful like character and figure that you created there. Like,
I love him. He was very surprising.
yeah.
For a period of time, at the end, the second half of that book looks so different over the 3 years that it took me to finish it. And so I'm really happy with where I landed with the Living Stars character. And he sort of became more tragic with every draft. So it was just like, this isn't sad enough. How can I make this sadder?
You nailed it. Oh, yeah, no, you
I love that.
Absolutely nailed it. And I think like there's this like element of like tragic and beautiful at the same time that reminds me of another one of my most favorite books, which is the Sorrows of Ava Lavender. Yeah, there's like that magical realist like beauty and pain at the same time kind of thing. Have you guys read that book as well?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, it has a lot of the same vibes. And that reminds me, I'll
have to check that out too, because I know the title because it was everywhere for a period of time, and so gonna check that out.
Yeah. Ava Lavender reminds me of Lazaro. Okay, and then I was curious if you read a lot of magical realism, like if you have a favorite magical realist author or book.
I don't read a lot of magical realism because I feel like it's evolved in so many different ways from, this thing that used to only belong to Latin America. But I think that if I could choose a book, there's a book called The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. And I think that, Emily doesn't necessarily identify it as magical realism because it doesn't take place in Latin America, or doesn't, she's Chinese. But I do think that it has a lot of those, it pulls from the same well, of like magic in the mundane. And so I think that, like, I would definitely put that in that category, like the magical realism slash fabulism. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And maybe that's a better term for me to call it. I guess I didn't realize that magical realism was more of like a Latin American kind of.
That's the root of it. That's where
Okay.
it started. And it started off as an art form. People will tell you different things all over the place. And I'm just like, I don't want to fight with anybody. I'm just going to read a book, but, so the concept of it, if actually there should be an interview on HBO Max or HBO Latino from Isabel Allende, who's like, one of the biggest names in the genre. And she, for her, the way she explains it, she's like, I don't think of it as fantasy. I think of it as like, as real. Our ghosts are real. If you look at it, if you look at the time period where she's writing from a place of displacement, as a refugee from Chile, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez writing in a period of time where his country is in conflict, right? So if he's writing about people who vanish, are they vanishing because an angel came down from heaven and took them away? Or did they vanish because, like, the militia came by and just like kidnapped a bunch of people? And so I think that's the line that magical realism straddles, is like explaining these incredible things in Latin America, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just like magic without rules, right? And so that's, the more you read the books, I think the more you see the difference and who's like doing what. But it is a very fascinating subject for sure. And there's a lot of material out there. So if you like one, you might, you can just keep looking for others and see what you actually end up liking.
Yeah.
Would you say that magical realism almost straddles the line between, like, we talk about a lot of real topics through like metaphor and through stories because we can understand them better in that way? And I know, like, reading magical realism, sometimes I think, well, this could be just a way of understanding or like explaining an emotion or like an event, or it could be literal magic, and I'm never quite sure.
Well, so I think that with magical realism, it's not just like a metaphor. It's like, this is what it is, right? Like this is the explanation. And actually, one of my favorite examples, I don't know why I didn't even think of it from the beginning, because I was thinking of adult books. Every single book that Anna Marie McLemore has written, they are like true, like they are the true heir of like Garcia Marquez and Isabel Allende when it comes to the genres. So I would check them out. Yeah.
I have a question. So, what was your writing process like for this book specifically? And I'm wondering, like, how long did it take you to come up with the concept? Was this like a story that you had in your mind for quite some time? And what was it like finally wrapping it up and just knowing that you were complete with the story?
So this book is a little different for me because I'm a very fast drafter. I'm always writing. I'm always on deadline. And this book was a surprise because I actually never planned to write it. It was originally a short story in an anthology called Toil and Trouble, edited by Tess Sharp and Jess Spotswood. And sorry. And it was, the short story was literally Marimar and Ray arrive at the house. Orquídea, they have this crazy dinner, and Orquídea turns into a tree. Her name was Rose in that short story. I changed a lot of things from the short story to the book, but then I got the opportunity to turn it into a book, and so I started just zooming out and zooming backwards and forward. Like what happened then, what happens after. If all I had in mind was this scene, how did we get here, and where are we going afterward? And or where do we go from here? And so it took me about 3 years to really figure it out, because I was terrified of writing something so close to myself, right? Like I think like it's not always easy to write something that's full of so many like pain, like not that I experienced like what Orquídea experienced, but to get into a character's head who has suffered so much is like, it takes a big toll on you, right? And so that's why I think this book took me a little longer than some of my other books.
And crafting the tree, it's a pretty intricate tree, so I can imagine that sort of process as well. But everything just sort of builds upon each other and makes sense, and it all seems to come together in the end.
Actually, we I don't know if you guys have this, but my publisher made a sort of like an art card of the family tree, and so I have that on my website. I'll link it to you guys here, and I also have like the playlist and a cocktail for those of you who like cocktails. Called the cocktail is called the King of Four Rivers, and
I love that.
I linked it here for you guys in the chat.
Yeah, that image, so the living star and then the tree will just, stick in my mind forever.
I really loved Four Rivers as a setting. It felt so familiar. Did you like go on any writing retreats or what was there? It just felt so like so real. I was wondering if it's based on somewhere you've been or just from your imagination.
It's just my imagination. I just really kept thinking Orquídea is looking for a safe place to live out her life. And so I was just like, what does her safe place look like? And I thought of this valley that was completely dead until the moment she arrives there and she puts her magic into it. And it becomes her version of paradise, right? Like the four rivers in the Bible, the four rivers of Eden that mark paradise. So yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking.
All right, do you guys have any more questions? I definitely want to make sure we respect Zoraida's time, so it's going on 30 minutes.
I don't know if you can say this yes or no, but have you has there been any talk about like a movie adaptation or a Netflix adaptation? Because I would love that so much.
I would love it too. It's not really in my hands, but we're definitely trying. We're knocking on Hollywood doors and seeing if somebody wants to take this up. Because it is quite of a challenge, the book is weird, and there's so many storylines. What do you focus on? But I think it would be incredibly beautiful on the big screen. So we'll see. I think that the more people who like buy the book helps with interest too. So if you haven't picked it up yet, do.
I don't know. I got the book. I got the audio book.
The audiobook is
my library. Like I'm doing it.
Thank you so much. The audiobook is actually really great because I love the narrator, Frankie Corzo, and so she's one of my favorites.
Well, nice. All right, Zoraida, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts about this beautiful book. It was a privilege to have you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you guys have a good chat. And you know, I know it's always better when like the author's not there, so that like you can talk about the book.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us pick your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Oh, so fun. Whoa, we're like all weirdly angled here. How do I adjust? Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to discussing our thoughts, feelings, opinions about the book.
Yeah.
Okay, so we asked Zoraida what her favorite character was, but now I want to know, what was your guys' favorite characters? I think I heard one of you say Ray.
I love Ray.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Ray. Ray reminds me of a lot of people in my life.
Yeah.
I like Mile as well, but I think sometimes she is more central than Ray almost, and sometimes you come and she's very fond of Ray, and sometimes you come your favorite character because you're sort of with the main character so much that your favorite character comes to be their favorite person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked Rhiannon, the little fairy child.
Yeah,
she was surprising. It's like she just had special abilities, and I thought that was really cool.
I love how she was like a living mood ring.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So did you guys listen to the audiobook? Did you like read like the physical copy, ebook?
I had ebook and audiobook, and I did like a mix because I had to go to audiobook because I wasn't going to finish in time otherwise. So.
Yeah. When did you start reading it, Laura?
Like, I started a while ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, but I finished it an hour ago.
Yeah.
On audiobook.
I think I started mine on Sunday. It's like the latest I've waited to start one of our books. And basically, I had to like tell myself 50 pages a day is the only way that you're going to finish. And so I hate when I do that because it kind of like makes it feel like homework, but I enjoyed like the read.
Yeah, and I because I also left it late, and I find like I won't absorb it in the same way because I'm rushing to finish it. But it's the sort of book that I think you absorb, even when you're trying to finish it quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's kind of our tradition to like compare books to food. So what any foods you can think of?
I'm thinking of like the hummingbirds, and so something like nectary or something sweet, like lemonade or something. Yeah,
or some kind of like tea that's like brewed with like flower petals.
Yeah, I think more of like teas, like nice like flower teas and something very sweet and nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, normally we have a prediction, like do we think that this will have been anyone's top shelf read? So do you want to predict before we kind of get into like the heart of the story and discussions?
Sure.
Yeah, we're missing a few. Are we going to predict for everyone or just for us who are here?
We can, if you like can think that it'll be someone who's not here's favorite.
Yeah. I have to think.
I feel like this is a book that could be top shelf read for Sara, maybe.
I was gonna say for Angela.
Okay.
But
I was thinking Angela too.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's mentioned liking stories kind of similar to this in the past, so maybe Angela. But I don't think she was able to read it.
Oh yeah. So we'll never know.
Because her master's program or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think that it's gonna be Laura's top shelf read. Maybe I'll be wrong, but that's just the vibes I'm getting.
I'm not sure. I think it will be Angela's. It may potentially be for Stephanie. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, we'll kind of get into the spoilery stuff too. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier, like a character that really stuck out to me was the Living Star, and I'm curious. I don't know. Did any of you guys have like similar feelings about him as like important to the story, or like were you happy with how his life turned out?
So sad.
Yeah, I know.
It was just so sad, but I loved reading about his story so much. I love tragedies. I don't know why, but I thought it was very beautifully done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. He felt like I was so surprised that this wasn't inspired by any sort of mythology because it felt so much like it could have been, or it felt like so almost like spiritual. So yeah, that's so amazing that she was able to recreate that feeling of it's like of kind of tradition or uh, mythology. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that she was able to sort of craft something that just felt so real. I felt like I was kind of getting lost in it. And I sort of was questioning too, like, I wonder if this is just based off of her own creation or if it's based off of any mythology. But I was definitely like there for it. And I loved the creature and sort of like Orquídea's relationship with the sea creature.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
really like the picture.
Speaking of the sea creature, there's like they're talking about near the end of the book how there's this door at like the bottom of the ocean, and like they keep bringing it up, and I kept thinking, oh, cool, they're gonna like go to the door at the bottom of the ocean, but I mean, unless I missed something, like that never happened. Did you guys feel like something should have happened there too, or?
I can't really remember, but I
Okay.
didn't think that it was a place that they would actually go to, but something to refer to.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment from the book? Like 6 months from now, I guess, whenever the book is on the shelf or back in the library or wherever it goes, is there something that you think will stick with you the most?
I really like the flower. Well, I thought the flower growing out of them was interesting, and I had such a vivid image of what that would look like if there ever is a film adaptation. I have very specific ideas about what that would look like. And just the parts where they're living normal, like familiar lives, I guess I shouldn't say normal, but for lives that were familiar to me. And but then having people standing out because of that difference, or having people like brutalize them by like trying to pluck petals from their flower, for example. Yeah, I think that is what stands out to me the most, because I thought that was so unique.
Yeah.
I will always just kind of remember. So when I was reading this book, and she was talking about, like, you could definitely tell that Orquídea was going to become a tree. And I kept thinking, is that really going to happen? And is that like real? Like, and I just kind of love the commentary. Like, I loved the family dynamic because people were so funny in the book, and like just like cousins, just like kind of just making like jokes with each other. And when she started to become the tree, I was like, WTF. Like, I can't believe that she's actually going there and she's becoming like a literal tree. And then she was becoming it and everything. And then when the flower started to grow from like the neck and the forehead, and I was just like, again, like, this is real. And they are just kind of like, and what I thought was so hilarious was in that family, they were just kind of like, Orquídea, like, our grandma, like, she's so strange that we believe anything. Like, it didn't even like phase them that she was becoming this tree. And they were just like, yeah, this is like I totally get this. This is totally like happening. And every once in a while they'd be like, is this really happening though? So like, it's just like this sort of like mix of like just this family component and like WTF, and this is really happening, that I would just love to see it like on like a screen and just see her become this like beautiful tree in the fire, and that sort of aspect of it in the circus, and like her sort of becoming this like circus mermaid, and the spectacular show. And I thought it was so cool how she just kind of talked about like, displacing Orquídea, because like she really did feel like she was so different from everything around her. And then she becomes a circus attraction, right? And I just thought that would be just such a cool thing to watch. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm even like talking about it well, because like I was like gushing about it so much when I was reading it. I thought it was so cool. And I love books that have like just like so weird, and it's just like strange things are happening, and I just love that so much.
See, I have a feeling that my prediction's right. I knew it, because I was like, it's weird enough for Sara to like it. And there are like kind of some weird and kind of like gross moments too. Like whenever Mike, I think is his name, and he gets the pustules with the grasshopper eggs, and then they like burst out of his body. Like, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. There was like some crazy stuff going on, and I loved that so much. Oh gosh, I didn't even tell her. There was this like medical thing in this book that I think I didn't bring it up because we were like trying to avoid like spoilers.
Yeah,
But
it
I
did
wrote,
seem like that.
yeah, and like because we weren't in the spoiler section yet, and uterine inversion. So like she delivers her baby, and like literally like the uterus like protrudes out, and
I remember that part.
I had never heard of that before. And so in our pathology lab, I was like, hey, have you guys seen this before? And like our like probably most senior pathology scientist, she was like, I have seen this once in my life.
Wow.
And she's been doing this for like 20 years. And I just couldn't believe that she has something in the book that I was like, I didn't know like existed, because I work at a like primarily gynae like pathology lab. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff, and I loved it. I don't know.
Yeah. So have you guys read any Erin Morgenstern?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like do you not like Erin Morgenstern, Sara?
I have been trying to read The Starless Sea for like literally since before I started my booktube channel.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's not moving very well. I'll just say that. It's just like I know I get like I think Angela really really loves Erin Morgenstern, and just some things happen and some things work and some things I don't know. doesn't really mesh well with me. It's all.
That's
Did you read The
interesting.
Night Circus?
I tried.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So same reaction.
Yeah.
I haven't read either of them, or any Erin Morgenstern, but
You may
I heard
love
that
it.
I heard that a lot of people though who like The Night Circus don't necessarily like The Starless Sea.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I
I've
like
never,
both.
I don't know, I haven't read either of them. So.
And I got like Night Circus vibes too from the story. Yeah. I mean, there were differences, but like pretty similar vibes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just love the humor. That's so cool.
Yeah. Laura, do you have like, I don't know, maybe a moment that stuck out to you or something that you think was really special about the book? I know you mentioned the flowers, so that may be the thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a specific moment. I liked the parts that were with Ray and Marimar and that their generation.
Mhm.
I just connected with those more, and they were also pretty humorous. Or just their sort of bantering was nice. I'm gonna go with the flowers, and if anything else comes to me that is more specific, because you're right, there were so many just whoa, that's weird, things that were going on that none of them standing out to me at the moment. But yeah, I will come back to you if I think of something.
Did any of you think that it was jarring, like the structure of the story? So how it was like in the present and then we go back in the past to Orquídea?
Like, I kind of feel like it was sort of necessary for me. I honestly really love when a book consistently changes timelines and gives you like little bits and little secrets along the way. This book definitely does that. A lot of like thrillers do that too. They'll sort of like you'll be kind of going in one direction and sort of learning about somebody's story, and then yank you go somewhere else, and then you kind of go back and forward and back and forward, and everything becomes more and more clear as you go. But
Yeah.
how did you feel about it?
I think it worked really well for the story because it's all about like getting at Orquídea's like secrets, right? So
Yeah.
like the family is like searching for like the mystery behind the inheritance and like more explanation about Orquídea's life and all of that. So I think that it was like a good structure. I do think there were sometimes, I mean, I guess that's just the nature of it, is that you're going to feel kind of thrown out of the main story for a while.
Yeah.
So it is a little jarring like in the beginning when you're getting back to like the specific like different times.
Yeah. Was it a book that you felt read very quickly, or do you feel that it was like more of a slow burn?
I actually felt it didn't read quickly. Well, it didn't for me. It took me. Well, I mean, 2 weeks is not that long to read a book, but it would have taken me longer had I not had a deadline. But it's not that the pace was slow or anything, or that it wasn't slow burning, as in there was nothing happening. There were things happening throughout the book. I think it seemed almost more like maybe episodic. I didn't feel like I wanted to keep reading for something to be revealed. Like it was an experience being in the story and reading about all these really creative and magical things that were happening. But for me, there was no sort of tension of, oh my goodness, what is going on here? It's all going to be revealed. It was more just like, okay, now I'm in this world and wow, like what an experience being in this world. But it wasn't, it wasn't like, oh gosh, what's going to happen next? Sort of thing for me.
Yeah, it did feel more like literary than like a mark. Like it didn't feel like very like commercial, And I think that there were a lot of like sections that were like expository and more like lyrically beautiful, but kind of like not super action packed intense with dialogue and like fast pacing, in my opinion. And so, but I think that might have been like what she was going for. Like
I think so.
Like more of like a poetic, lyrical, literary adult novel.
Yeah. And like what's so strange is that like usually I don't really like poetic writing or like lyrical writing. Kind of, I don't know, like I think it's because I'm like in science and I just kind of want, I just kind of want, I just kind of want to know like what's happening and everything. But I felt like it fit this book really well, and to me the language was beautiful without being preoccupied with being beautiful or trying to be. And that's what I think I appreciated about it. There are some books that don't really do that for me. They almost feel like they're really, really trying to make every sentence kind of beautiful, but I felt that this book had a good balance of it. And sometimes you would be in this sort of like beautiful writing and then something like funny or like bizarre would happen and you'd be kind of like pulled back and be like, what is going on?
The grasshoppers.
Right.
Okay, well, I will say, getting questions for this, there aren't, I don't know if you found any. I didn't find any book club questions. So, like, I guess my thoughts are, have you found any, Sarah?
No, no, I haven't. And I looked quite a bit too.
Yeah. So my questions, I guess, are mainly just like personal reactions, experiences, and thoughts and moments that stick with you. And I feel like we've covered that like a pretty good deal. So are there any like maybe important topics of the book you guys want to discuss, or things that you'd feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention for this live show?
Not from me.
No, not from me either.
Yeah. Okay, well then I guess we can go ahead and move on to, is it a top shelf read?
Who wants to start?
I can go. Okay, so I think this book is like really beautiful and very like unique, but it is not a top shelf read for me. I felt like in a lot of places, like there was a lot of stuff that I didn't feel like was explained or carried out as much as I felt it probably should have been. I mean, and maybe it's just that I missed something. And I understand that, like, in a book that is magical realism, a lot of times you have to just suspend your kind of, reality, right? And I enjoyed, like, the fantastical elements of it. But I also felt like I didn't connect a lot, like, with the writing. I felt like it was, like, too, like, expository in a lot of places, and would have liked just a little bit more, like, story instead of someone just telling me all these things about the family that had happened and stuff. And I just overall didn't, like, have a super strong connection with it. So it was a good book, like, and there are things about it that I think are incredible, but I just can't say it's top shelf. I would say it's above mid shelf, though.
Sarah, why don't you go next? We can go in the line if that's okay, unless you wanna go last.
No,
She sometimes likes to go last.
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, so I thought that this book was very beautiful. I thought that, I thought that it was written well. I enjoyed, the family dynamics. And yeah, it was a top shelf read. So yeah, it totally was. Yay.
That was
And
right.
yeah, I was trying to trick you guys with that first sentence or two, but I don't think I did.
No.
So I don't think I really could. To me, it is, yeah, it was really good. It was really beautifully written. There were components of it, and I felt myself like there were parts of the book that kept visiting me in my dreams.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really sort of like cool experience for me. Like especially like the like crocodile-ish sea creature that kept visiting, like that she kept visiting, and really the family component I really connected with quite a lot. I thought that it was just beautiful, the different settings. I loved being in Four Rivers. I loved being in Ecuador. I loved being in New York. So really, I just kind of loved everything like about it. So
Aww.
yeah, and I think that what was interesting about reading the book is that I thought it was going to potentially get into like more of a, I guess, like Western depiction of ghosts, and but it didn't. And I thought that was really refreshing. Like it wasn't like a haunted house and ghosts and that sort of thing. It was sort of like family haunted by a family haunted by secrets, and it all sort of coming down to one uh, major like woman in the story. And I do love that it focused quite a lot on female characters. I thought that was really, really cool. And I don't know. I thought that tree scene was crazy. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was super, super cool. And I loved so much just listening to the audiobook. When I was about like probably like halfway through the book, I was like, hey, I'm gonna just try out the audiobook and see it. And I was listening to, how the author was pronouncing like the various names and learning how wrong I was about the pronunciation myself.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, because Spanish and Portuguese are like super similar. A lot of things are spelled like the exact same way, have the same meaning, and have a completely different pronunciation. And yeah, I loved it quite a bit.
Yay, you had a top shelf read.
Yeah.
And Laura.
Laura.
So I think this is a good example of a book that is very good and which I can read and appreciate why other people might get a lot out of it.
Oh, here it comes.
Without it, like not every book is for every person, and part of it is I never know when I have this experience if it's to do with like the way that I read it and the amount of time and energy and thought I gave to it, because I definitely was rushed, especially through the second half of the book. And I really, especially when I started the book, I really liked the writing style, and I thought that it was very like a very beautiful writing style, but without, like Sarah said, being trying too hard, and while also being very readable. But I guess I wasn't pulled into the story. I didn't, and I don't think I was supposed to be. I think it was more of a like more of like immersive experience, and like very literary and poetic.
I know exactly what you say, but I think it's interesting because you liked normal people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people, like, I like normal people too, and a lot of people say that it's like literary, and I mean, I kind of guess I like agree, like in a sense. So it's funny that like one literary work like we would both love a lot, and then another we wouldn't really have that. But there's like a wall kind of up between you
Yeah,
and
and I think there's literary that sort of borders on poetry, and then there's literary because I don't know, maybe like normal people is very sort of political in a lot of ways, so maybe literary because it's like very intellectual. Not that poetry isn't, but
I know what you
I
mean
thought
though.
this like leaned very far on the side of being poetic. And yeah, I just like I can't really describe it, but I didn't connect with it, and it was like I liked Ray and I liked Marimar, and I just it was more I didn't I don't know if I would have gotten to the end if it weren't that I had to for book club. I wasn't never like curious about what was happening next. And like there's some imagery, like the flowers, I thought, what I've already said. I thought that was so interesting, and I have such a clear image of what that looked like. But yeah, I just didn't connect with it. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe similar in a way to what Kristin described, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a dog trying to curl up behind me. Where is she?
Oh, hello. What is dog's name?
Oh, this is Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, there's not much of a surprise there, Laura. I feel like we're pretty much always going to be in agreement on whatever the book is. I don't know if we've ever disagreed. We have very similar tastes.
Yeah, I think so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys believe that this was the 17th meeting of the Top Shelf Society?
Oh my gosh.
17. Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 17. And you know what I realized today? I cannot believe I did this. I was looking in the playlist, and I said that the August live show was the July live show in the thumbnail. Did you guys notice that I did that?
I didn't notice that.
I think I probably messed up on mine as well. My one like posting experience, I'm pretty sure I messed up on. I was like, I don't even know what month this is. Let's just put one in there.
Oh my God. And then
I think I probably screwed up too.
Somehow I put this like try-on haul for a clothing line in the playlist. Like I just felt like such a failure. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't worry too much. I didn't notice it. I'm sure no one else did.
I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm impressed that you picked it up this many months later.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, we have discussed our thoughts. We have even spoken with the author. It's been a great time. And so I guess to end it out, we'll talk about our pick for the next month. So thank you, Top Shelfers, who I'm sure most of you guys will catch us on the replay, but thank you for your votes and participation in the books that we're going to be reading for November, December, January. And so I thought we could kind of list those out. And we've decided on the days of the live show, I believe. I and those will be on our Instagram. So I know most of you guys follow us there. But our next book, which I said at the beginning, is going to be The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is supposedly the founder of hello.
Oh, so cute. Kisses.
And I'm sorry, I'm making people dizzy. Hey, why don't you look at the camera, buddy?
No, you're making people jealous.
Yeah, I can't have like any animal in my apartment, so it's really sad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'll just leave it on for sleeping.
The founding book of the dark academia genre. So.
Oh, yes.
Cool.
That's The Secret History.
Yeah. And then in December, you guys voted on Christmas Days by Jeanette Winterson, which is 12 stories and 12 feasts for 12 days.
Was that your pick, Laura?
That was my pick. I think it might be one of my first picks that we did. Not that I didn't, I think I voted on things that other people put forward that then got chosen. Yeah. But it might be the first one that I put forward. And maybe not. I'll have to think about it. Yeah.
You won! And then January, this one sounds awesome. It's Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Did you nominate that one, Sarah?
No, I feel like it may have been Stephanie, but I'm just guessing. I have no idea.
Oh, it says it's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. That sounds cool.
I love retellings.
Yeah, me too. Me too. In February, we have The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, the author of Mexican Gothic.
I don't think I was the one that nominated.
I don't know.
I don't know who did.
Huh.
That's exciting.
I don't know if this one's going to be as strange. It says a sweeping romance with a dash of magic.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's a creepy romance.
With fungus. She might have moved beyond the mushroom, but if there's mushroom, I'm there for it. Yeah.
This romance better have fungus.
Is this? Do you know was this published before or after Mexican Gothic?
I think it was before.
I
think it was.
Nice.
Yeah, she has some new ones. Velvet is the Night, and I just read Untamed Shore like in September or August or something, and it was good. It was really great.
Yeah.
Did anything unseat Mexican Gothic as your favorite?
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was this time last year that we read House in the Cerulean Sea. I think maybe we read in September. I loved that one.
Oh, that was one we disagreed on.
We didn't
you
like
guys
that
when
one.
Oh no. You guys were like complete opposites with that one.
It was such a different. It was different though. Like I didn't have trouble picking it up and reading it, and like I was just like. It was just the cringe factor was too big for me.
Are you going to read his new book?
Yes, I am. I need to read it. Yeah. Like, I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet, but...
Are you going to, Laura?
Yeah, sure I will. No, I actually will. Yeah.
It looks really good. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it seems kind of different, and I think people are saying they don't like it as much, but, I mean... A lot of people say that about second books, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Even like looking back on it now, I am more fond of it than I was at the time. Like I remember, when you remember a book, it's a sign that you didn't dislike it that much. Like it was memorable.
Yeah. We probably should save this question, and it'll just be really quick, and then I'll let you guys go because I want to like honor your time. But. Do you have a favorite of all the top shelf books that we've read so far? Like, I'm so curious if there's one that out of all the ones that have been top shelf that stays.
They're Mexican Gothic.
Clearly.
But you might have more than one favorite.
Okay, I'll basically say what my favorites were. So favorites like that are just like complete favorites. Obviously, Mexican Gothic. I loved Fahrenheit 451.
Okay.
I loved it so much. I loved Black Girl Unlimited. Let me see. There are a few that I really loved. I love the Unhoneymooners. I thought it was like completely hilarious. And I loved sort of the banter. Let me just like see here.
Yeah, I'm
There's
looking
a
at the
few that
playlist
I
now.
really enjoyed.
The one that always like comes to mind as my favorite is Song of
Song of
Achilles.
Achilles. I
Yeah,
love that one too.
I really
Yeah,
like
me
that.
too.
Yeah.
I
I
always
love Song.
associate that book with you, Laura.
I
Like,
know.
yeah.
I think I got really excited during our book club for that one or something.
Yeah.
I think I bring it up a lot. I also really liked Clara and the Sun. That's probably the next one that comes to mind.
Clara and the Sun was like it just like it was my heart in a book. Like I loved it so much.
Yeah, so if you had to pick like on a podium, where first and second, which one would Mexican Gothic go on and which one would Clara and the Sun go on?
It's like a different
Yeah.
kind. It's like too hard to say, but I will say that I believe that in my favorite books of 2020, yeah, that video that I did, Mexican Gothic was my favorite of the top shelf books, and for 2021 it will be difficult for me to pick one. Like I loved Clara and the Sun. I love the Song of Achilles. And I really loved Firekeeper's Daughter so much.
I really like that one too. Yeah.
And this one I really love. It's just like this one I really love, but this is like for me like a whole October autumn vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also really liked, and I think I might have been the only one, but I think I had to leave that book club early, so I can't remember what everyone else thought, but I liked The Midnight Library. Not as much as Clara and the Sun or Song of Achilles, but I really enjoyed that one too.
Yeah. And I feel like I loved Rebecca so much.
Yeah.
So, is it Rebecca?
Rebecca?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say Rebecca is like number one, but like Rebecca and Song of Achilles are really close.
Yeah. Oh, I have to reread Song of Achilles.
It's not Emma?
Well, I did like Emma. I think I know whose least favorite that is. Sarah.
Who would that be?
Definitely Sarah. Laura, did you think that one was a top shelf read?
Emma?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I liked Emma.
Okay.
On track.
I think it was like me and Yesenia and Stephanie that, yeah.
What did Angela think? She liked it,
Angela liked it.
Interesting.
I remember her saying that the like day-to-day sort of aspect was really like good to read during the like especially the initial part of the pandemic where just everything seemed to be like stripped away, you know, like all sense of normality. So it was nice probably to like have that sort of structure like of like this is what we do in a day and kind of feel like some sense of normalcy because it was crazy, like it still is, but it was just such a shock, right? I
sometimes laugh to think that like that was the first book that we did. I mean, like what a one, like to start off with like what 400 long pages. Classic. But we did it.
Mm-hmm. And I think personalities were revealed
Definitely.
right off the bat.
It's so funny though how like I feel as we go on I get a better idea of what people's reading tastes are and no one is exactly the same. It's such and I'll still be surprised by what people really really love or what people strongly dislike. But yeah, I feel like as we go on, I just get a more and more accurate at predicting what people are going to like. And yeah.
It'll be fun to see what Stephanie said.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I will go ahead and end the live. If any of our top shelfers made it this far at the end, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you in November for Rebecca.